summer. They're a little more political than my normal stuff, but this first piece is called The Lie. The leader had converged a mob of his most intransigent followers to hear about some new policy he guaranteed would change their lives for the better. With unquestioning commitment and draped in clothing that celebrated their exalted ruler, they cheered and clapped reflexively. The proposal used to justify the rally was barely addressed. Instead, audacious attacks on dissidents, untenable boasts, and simplistic, repetitive chants filled the hour. The leader worked his zealots up into a frenzy with promises he would never keep, and fear-mongering rhetoric that encouraged ugliness and bigotry. There was no thought of integrity, decency, virtue, or consequence. The demagogue just wanted the unwavering attention and adulation that his supporters were so willing to bestow. And as the applause and shouts of admiration reached their zenith, the autocrat looked upon his throng and spoke the lie. Many in the crowd unconditionally believed the statement to be true. A small contingent recognized the absurdity of the claim, but immediately began to convince themselves otherwise. For the proclamation had weight, then it would excuse all their hatred and prejudices, cloak their predatory opposition in the guise of some sort of righteous action. They needed to be able to persecute the diverse with impunity, and that was precisely what their authoritarian's comment would allow. So banners waved and ovations thundered, and as the distortion was universally embraced by the gathering masses. Later that evening, the leader's baseless assertion was the hot topic of the nightly news. The anchors had invited a panel of political analysts to discuss the merits and flaws of the remark. Some were quick to condemn the comment as fabricated and prejudiced in nature, while others mounted a passionate defense. They claimed that future evidence might add validity to the deceit, or perhaps the despot's words were not meant to be taken literally, but rather to invoke a feeling that could not be disproven. Conspiracies were offered and insults were slung as both sides bickered themselves into a stalemate, but nevertheless, the lie persisted. Soon the authoritarian took to social media to redouble his commitment to the deception. He chastised those who doubted his words, calling them fakers and charlatans, enemies of the states. Lawmakers, companies, and private citizens who voiced offense at the defamation felt their rulers' unrestrained ire. The sovereign's disciples were encouraged to hurl their bile at any source of opposition, and a battle of hyperbolic comments commenced over testimony that was demonstrably false. The next morning, one of the leader's supporters created a meme to share with the world. A bastardized version of the already fraudulent narrative was combined with a misleading picture and concocted statistics to form a blatant form of propaganda. Like a virus, the meme traveled across cyberspace, collecting and redistributing hostility in its wake. It was altered and manipulated, giving birth to more repellent mutations of duplicity. By day's end, extremist talk show hosts and dogmatic websites were quoting different incarnations of the malicious libel. Then a man, having been constantly bombarded with vulgar misinformation, picked up a brick and buried it into the head of a person who was demonized by the lie. Many called it an act of domestic terrorism, but a small, yet vocal group cited the heinous deed as patriotic. Media swarmed around both the reprehensible and the righteous, reporting demands ranging from repression to revolution. And questions were asked: was the leader's reckless slander responsible for this recent violence? Was the self-proclaimed savior the cause of this growing division, mistrust, and strife? A response was required, so the mighty grandstander appeared before the cameras, addressing critics and collaborators alike, and the commander-in-chief did what he did best. He lied. Thank you.